Hi everybody, this is Dr. Swanson coming to you with a short little video to give you some feedback on the news releases. I'm also going to put some additional information in Canvas for you to go through as you are revising the draft news release into your final copy news release. But hang with me here for a few minutes while I give you some general guidance that fits for everybody. First, I want you to think about the news release in two ways. Think about it visually, what it looks like, and think about it in terms of narrative, what it says. Let's touch on the visual part for a minute. Some of you, maybe most of you, are saying, wow, this is really hard to fit all of this onto a single page. And that prompts me to say, why are you accepting the margins just the way they are? You know, a lot of times people just type into a Word document and they don't realize, oh, wait, I can adjust the margins. The margins are up to me. And that's kind of what you need to be thinking about in terms of the visual impact for starters. Because the Word document, that's your canvas, and you can play with it however you feel is appropriate. Now, it wouldn't be appropriate to set the margins to 0 where the type runs off the end of the page, because that doesn't make sense. But it also doesn't make sense to set the margins or accept them like they are right out of the box, because now you're constraining yourself and you've got all this white space around the edge that you don't need. So as you go back to your news release, think about the structure, how you want to do this. I said in the instructions that the copy has to be line spaced at 1.5 or 2 because the line spaces need to be far apart for easier reading, but you have the ability to set the margins the way you think they ought to be set. So play around with that a little bit, especially up at the top. You have to have the client's name big and bold across the top, so when it first pops up on the screen or comes out of the envelope, the news media gatekeeper knows exactly who this is coming from. That's really important. If you don't list the client name on the top, the gatekeeper goes, what is this? And gatekeepers are busy people. It takes about 5 seconds for them to go, throw it away. And all your work is wasted, and you don't want to have that happen. So client name, big and bold across the top. Contact information's got to be there in full. That's a credibility thing. The address, the whole thing's got to be in there. But play around with the spacing. Play around with it so that you can fit that contact information in as little space as possible at the top, as little space as reasonably possible, so that it still looks businesslike and professional, but you're not burning up a whole lot of space there. A couple of these news releases I looked at, you burned up a third of your space at the top of the page with the contact information. As soon as you do that, then you're not leaving yourself enough room to tell a story. So think about that in terms of visual appearance and structure, how this all goes together. Talk to each other on your team. Look at the samples that other people are working with. Go to the internet and look at news releases and see how they do that. And find a way to structure your news release where it still looks businesslike and professional, but you're not wasting a lot of space in the process. So, okay, so that's the structure. Down at the bottom, there needs to be a boilerplate. And if you didn't have a boilerplate in your draft, I sent you a link to a page that talks about boilerplates. They're really important because that boilerplate is the place for you to put a lot of the basic information that you don't want to burn up space with up above. So talk about boilerplates, and if you've got questions about boilerplates, ask me through Canvas. I'll try to help you out. Okay, so we've talked about that. Think back to your COMM 101 or equivalent. What is a news release all about? It is to get the attention of the gatekeeper and say, hey, this is an interesting, newsworthy story. Here's a hook. Okay, so you got to give them a hook that makes this story interesting. There is a hook in there. Some of you guys found it, some of you guys never found it. Look for it. It's there. What makes this story novel, unique, different, interesting? What would make it a very visual story? That's the kind of thing I'm talking about with a hook. And gatekeepers are constantly looking for the hook. If they don't see the hook, your news release gets gone. Okay, so you got to have the hook. You got to have a lead sentence that makes this interesting, that makes me want to keep reading. You've got to have a headline that tells me, ooh, this is an interesting story. You know, company bought 2 boats is not a headline that makes me want to care. So have a headline that makes me want to care. Massage your copy. Keep working with it so those sentences flow smoothly from one to the next. Inverted pyramid format. That means big picture at the top, the details follow in order of importance, and the minor stuff is down at the bottom. Okay, that's really important. Don't make it sound like an ad. Don't make it sound like an ad. Don't make it sound like Trump wrote it. It's the greatest thing ever. It's wonderful. Oh, it's great. Everybody's going to love it. That's not news. And gatekeepers are going to go, you know, they're not interested in that. They're interested in news. Well, for the most part, okay, TMZ is interested in that other stuff, but we're writing news here. We're writing news here for news media gatekeepers, so they really want to see a news story. So spend a lot of time with your copy. Get opinions from members of your team. The copy is really important. It's got to flow smoothly. Active sentences, short sentences. Okay, I saw a news release in this group with a lead sentence of 45 words. I'm dead, okay? You can't do that on a lead sentence. Now, I don't want you guys to take this personally. Writing a news release is really hard. This is hard, and that's why I'm being very lenient with you. I'm walking on eggshells with you. Because this is hard, and you're not going to have a whole lot of time to perfect it in this class, but I want you to get the basics down. I think I mentioned in the earlier video, when I wrote my first news release, it took me a week. Okay, we don't have a week. So this is hard, and I give you much applause for doing this because this is something different than you've never done this before. So hang in there, hang in there. You're going to get better if you stick with it. Get feedback from your peers. Look back to the text to see what news releases look like and how they're structured. Go on the internet and look at news releases. After you write something, set it aside for a day or so and then come back to it. You'll see things you didn't see. AP style is so important. I saw so many AP style mistakes. Please, please, AP style. Date lines, numbers, dollar figures. There's rules for all that stuff. So please, please, please attend to that. What are some other things I can talk about? Let me look at my computer here real quick. Yeah, just remember the gatekeeper thinks, what's in it for me? You're sending this to the gatekeeper, and they want an interesting, perhaps visual news story that they can communicate to their audience, and that's what you're giving them. And you want to make their job as easy as possible. And so you don't want them to have to rewrite your stuff, because if they have to rewrite it, 80% of news releases sent to the media don't get used. And there are reasons for that. And the reasons are they don't look good, they're going to need a lot of rewrite, they don't make sense, there's facts in there that aren't clear. News media gatekeepers get stories and they get news releases by the bag every day. So you want to rise above that and get yours used. So make sure it sounds like news, not like hype, not like Trump wrote it. Consider the words you use. Cost or investment. Are these boats a cost? I would argue they're an investment. That sounds like a positive word. Are they boats or ships? I don't care. Pick one and use it consistently. Don't call them ships and boats, ships and boats, ships and boats, because then that gets very confusing. Anyway, I've sent you guys a lot of feedback in Canvas when I graded your work, so make sure that you read that feedback. I'm going to post some additional written feedback and some suggestions for you. Please look at that. I will say, and only a couple of you did it, the rest of you didn't, the vast majority of you didn't, thank you. Do not resurrect the 15-year-old fatal accident story. No, this is not the place for that. Because if this were the place for that, every time Cal State Fullerton wrote a news release, they would say somewhere in the news release, did you know in 1976 there was a massacre in the library and 7 people were killed? They don't do that. They don't dredge up the old bad news over and over again. So you don't do that. No. Don't do that. If you do that in the final copy, you'll fail the assignment. Okay, so don't do that. This is not about a 15-year-old accident. This is about what's news today. How can we frame this as today? How can we frame this as a positive, interesting story that gatekeepers will want to latch onto? That's what you need to think about. So, if you got any questions, let me know. And again, I pat you on the back because this is tough work and you're all making progress. So I want you to continue making progress. Share your copy amongst yourselves, talk about it. If I didn't circle something on your news release, don't think that's the gospel and you got to keep it that way. When you revise, you're free to revise. And if, a week from now you look at a statement that I didn't circle, but you don't like it, you want to change it, consider changing it. Because this is a practice. We are practicing writing to get as good as we can possibly be. And the news release is the core of everything we do in PR. If you can do this well, you can do anything well. Because this is one page, creative, strategic, persuasive. If you can do this, you can do anything. All right? Keep working. Let me know if you got any questions. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.